While my research and understanding is prone to change in the future as more information becomes available, apparent, and updated. All and any feedback on the information presented is highly encouraged as I seek nothing more than clarity, accuracy, and truth. Thank you so much for your support. Epirus, the ancient and mountainous region of northwestern Greece that is touched by the Ionian Sea, bordering Albania, West Macedonia, Thessaly, and Rumelia. The music of this region is perhaps the most distinct feature, consisting of slow, pentatonic, polyphonic modes of song and dance that enchant all its listeners. While the music of Epirus deserves a plethora of videos, this video will not be strictly focusing on the nature of just its music. Rather, we will be comparing it to that of its neighbor, Thessaly. For some time now, I've been concerned with how ethno-musical cultures relate to one another, specifically regarding the identification of their respective origins and influences on and from other cultures. The main example that's taken up much of my time is that of the similarities found between Epirus and Thessaly. I've listened to many songs and done many dances from both regions, and while there are still lots of differences, the similarities found in the music just by listening are too blatant to leave unexamined. Before looking at these similarities, I want to look at some key differences. Epirotica, or the music of Epirus, holds myrologia, lament songs, as the most characteristic form of song compared to the rest of Greece, including Thessaly. Myrologia are integral and usually begin and conclude festivals, and are dedicated to those who have left the living or departed from their ancestral homes to new lands. The pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is the primary scale of Epirotica, and while it can be found in Thessaly in some parts, it is not as integral and not as woven in the culture as it is in Epirus. Here's an example. The ostinato. The ostinato of the violin in the background of many Epirotica songs is distinctly Epirotic in ancestry. Listen to this song, Ξεχωρίσματα Παπαγώνα Αθανασίου.
Έλαγε μου να φιληθούμε, έλαγε μου να φιληθούμε.
An exaggerated glissando. An exaggerated glissando in a given sequence is an indication of Epirotic musical ancestry. This trait can be found in Thessaly and other regions like Macedonia and Rumelia, but is not as pronounced, exaggerated, or as consistent as seen in Epirus, for the most part. Here are some examples seen in both Epirus and Thessalia, for comparative sake. The final difference is polyphony. Polyphony is described as multiple voices that are harmonizing with each other in a given song. Polyphony is greatest in Epirus, although, as we'll get to later, there are cases of polyphony in other regions. Epirus, is the hallmark of polyphonic music. Now we move on to the similarities. Slow and rhythmic melodies. This is the primary similarity between both regions. For most songs and dances, they have slow, rhythmic, passionate, and consistent melodies that, to the untrained ear, sound almost identical, as seen in a couple of the examples earlier. The instruments. Both regions share the general repertoire: clarinet, defi, violin, and lauto. However, there are some cases in both regions where the dubeleki is present. Based on my current understanding, this is an influence from Rumelia. With these similarities and differences in mind, I tried thinking of ways by which the musical traditions of Epirus influenced that of Thessaly, since there's clearly an influence present. One of the main ideas given to me was how musicians, when traveling, would pick up and transmit their styles wherever they ended up. While this example happens all over the world and is a fact, I wanted to find a less generalized and more insightful reason that specifically answered why Epirus and Thessaly sound similar. And while it's true that some musicians from Epirus would have traveled eastward, there's a large range of mountains, the Pindos Mountains, that separates Epirus and Thessaly. Within and around these mountains, on both sides of the Pindos, exist populations of Romance-speaking peoples known as the Aromanians or the Vlachs. These are the people who I believe are the key to understanding the similarities between both regions. The Vlachs, or the Vlachi of Greece, can be found in Epirus, Thessaly, Macedonia, and parts of Rumelia, with the greatest concentration found in and around the Pindos Mountains. Their musical traditions remain very similar to each other despite some of their geographic separation. Specifically, when we look at the northern populations. Listen to these Vlachi songs from Macedonia and Thessalia.
Oi, cancesteryo, jelik mare, cancesteryo, jelik mare, o gramos no atunar, ai lele.
Τι έχει ζαχαρούλαμ, ζαχαρούλαμ και μέρα νύχτα κλαις.
Now, listen to these songs from the same regions, but songs that are not Vlachi. Based on these examples, it's clear that the non-Vlachi music of Macedonia is quite different compared to the Vlachi music. It can be said that they share more in common with the music of Epirus than of Macedonia. So why is the consistency of Vlachi music throughout northern Greece, specifically near and around the Pindos Mountains, significant to the similarities between Epirus and Thessaly? Well, this is because the music of Thessaly is heavily influenced by Vlachi music. In understanding the geographical distribution of the Pindos Vlachs, we can begin to see a sort of musical transitional zone that spans the Epirus-Thessaly border. Currently, due to its historically prominent Vlachic culture, I believe that the hub of this transitional zone is none other than the Vlachi village, Metsovo. As a town that was once renowned for its wealth through trade and investments by its inhabitants, Metsovo was, and still is, a cultural hub for the Vlachic people. While Metsovo falls within the Epirotic repertoire, it has some musical distinctions that render it unique when compared to the rest of Epirus. When comparing it to the music of Thessaly, it is perhaps equally as similar and different to it as when compared to the music of Epirus. This is why I mainly consider it to be a transitional zone, as its music sounds like both regions, but with enough distinctions to exemplify its uniqueness within the diversity of Epirus. To get an idea, here are a couple songs from the area compared to songs from both Epirus and Thessaly.
Αδειά για μια βράδια, ώρα σου δίνω ολύρες και φλουριά.
Βασιλικός θα γίνω στο παραθύρι σου, στο παραθύρι.
Πατήσα βασίλο μου, ο Χαμαλβάσι.
Because of both the prominence of Vlachi in and around the Pindos mountain ranges and the heavy influence of Vlachic music upon Thessaly, I mapped the primary area of Vlachic influence as such, with the hub being Metsovo. This area of influence spans the borders separating Epirus, Thessaly, and Macedonia. Here are the other areas of influence that showcase how I believe the music of Thessaly was influenced by Epirotica in a sort of historical timeline format. We have the pentatonic and polyphonic nature of Epirotica originating in northern Epirus and southern Albania, evolving through the voices of local Greeks, Albanians, and Vlachi. The music here, sometimes called Deep Epirotica, became collectively perceived by other Greeks to encompass most of, if not all, Epirotica, due to its spread to and distribution from the cultural hub of Ioannina, creating an area of influence. From Ioannina, some influence would be shared down south to Arta and Preveza, and eastwards towards the Pindos Mountains. The influence upon the Pindos Mountains would have helped create the distinct sounds of Metsovo and other Vlachica, which would then generate the sounds of Thessaly. In conclusion, the musical qualities found in Epirus and Thessaly share similarities that were too blatant to be left unexamined. Having also looked at the characteristics of Pindos Vlachica that separate both regions, I concluded that they serve as a transitional zone that help explain the similarities of both Epirus and Thessaly. It is important to note, however, that the music of Epirus and Thessaly show great internal diversity, since both regions, like any other part of the world, underwent their own developmental histories with different influences coming and going from neighbors and different cultures across the sea. For instance, not all Epirotica sounds like Deep Epirotica, and different villages of the same part of the region can have drastic variations in the way they perform songs and dances. Port towns like Preveza and Parga likely picked up some traits from traders and travelers from different countries which bled into their local musical repertoire. The urban music of Yanina differed from the rural, and still holds to this day. The main point here is that understanding musical influences is not so easy and clear-cut. This, of course, does not hinder my goal to piece together more complex models of understanding how influences are transmitted from region to region, culture to culture, or village to village. We've already seen an example of a simple model showing how Epirotica influenced Thessaliotica, but in my next video, coming soon, I'll be showing a different method/model to visualize the relatedness between cultures. Γεια σας κυρίες και κύριοι. Thank you for watching my video on the introduction to Epirotica and Thessaliotica. I will be making a video in the near future about the musical diversity of Epiros. This video obviously just touches base on it, so there's obviously a plethora of information and music and dances in Epiros, so that'll be coming at some point in the future. So more videos of different topics will be coming soon, so stay tuned, and thank you all for your support.